I love this female value versus male value one you dropped in. I wasn't expecting it, so I watched it this morning and I was like, oh, this is actually really true. And I'm curious on Chat's opinion on it. So let's jump into this one.
18, she has choices. At 18, you have nothing. At 25, she looks for love. At 25, you're chasing goals. At 30, she slows down. At 30, you're just getting started. Dear son, a woman's life starts at 18. A man's life starts at 30. A woman is born with value. A man is born with no value. She has to protect her value. You have to build your value. I didn't make the rules. Nature did.
There it is. That's just well said. You're having a biological experience. And so understanding the way things are, I think will help people get a lot more clear. Now, that doesn't mean that a woman can't live an entrepreneurial life. By all means, do your thing. But life will be very confusing to you if you do not understand that women are prized for their beauty. They are prized for their ability to reproduce. And so it's going to be a very different thing. First of all, they're going to be wired differently intellectually. There's more overlap than there is separation. I hate that I have to say that every time. The differences at the extremes become extreme. Seeing myself in that, I was like, oh my God, that's so true. And if somebody had just made that clearer to me, I might not have suffered so much in my early 20s when I was just very confused. And I thought that I already had to be something. I didn't realize I could build my value yet. And that caused a lot of darkness and turmoil. I don't think people understand. The internet has its downsides, to be sure, but oh buddy, there are upsides. The framing of life is very useful. By all means, people can reject it if it doesn't work for them, but don't be confused by these things.
As a young male hearing that message, right, somebody might be like, well, damn, at 18, I got to start all over and I got to figure it out. And although we have years of mindset content that can get them out of that and put them onto the track of becoming an entrepreneur and helping their family out and becoming a lovable member of society. On the flip side of that, though, the narrative that men have no value at 18, would that at least color some picture into why we're seeing so many male mass shooters, so many people, young males going into suicide, so many young males breaking bad right now in this current moment?
I get why you draw them together. I think that going back to subtlety often is really important. Those two things are related, but they're different. They're related in that if you tell somebody that they have no value enough, they begin to believe it. The wording there maybe isn't great for the era that we're living in right now, where men are already told that they don't have value. But in the context of this video, what he's trying to get you to focus on is not that you don't have value, it's that you can build value, and that men and women are going to be judged in different ways. And so I'm just trying to get you to understand it, dear son, right? Like if I had a son, I would not give him messaging that you don't have value at 18. I would just say, listen, you're going to be valued for very different things. And by the way, you're wired for certain things. And presumably I would know my child well enough to know if they're going to have my level of like aggression and ambition and all of that. Because I don't want to force anybody down that road. If they don't have it, fair enough, but understand how the world works, understand how you're going to be looked at. And so decide whether you're going to embrace that or push that away. Now, why do I think that men right now are dying deaths of despair at an absolutely tragic rate? There's a whole host of reasons, but the highlights are men are told that they're toxic. So the very traits, one thing that I want to put out into the world is I want to see young men be aggressive. I want to see them be dominant. I want to see them be hyper ambitious. I don't ever want somebody to back off to make space for somebody else, whether that's a woman or otherwise. I want to see them battle ideas. And when women step to the plate, give them their shot like you would give anybody else their shot. But if they can't out-argue you, there's no comfort given simply because they're a woman. There are plenty of women, they've got the intellect, trust me. And so plenty of women will be able to humble you. So you don't need to make extra space. It's like you do your thing. The women that are prepared to play at the level of aggression, ambition, all of that, they will play. Don't reject someone because they're a woman. That would be asinine because there's so much brilliance in women that to isolate that or to try to push it out of the public square or contributions to innovation, all that stuff would just be idiotic at the level of society. But I don't back off because somebody's a woman. I am trying to do the greatest thing ever. There have been plenty of women that have just been better than me. So it's like, yeah, cool. all right, well, we're going to go with that idea. In that way, I don't treat people any differently. And I would advise my son the same thing. You want to go as hard as you can. You want to be aggressive. You want to be ambitious. These are positive things. By telling men that these are negative things and they feel the impulses, they think, oh my God, my impulses are bad. You don't want men to be in that situation. And the most important thing I think that we could teach men, because this really comes out of sexuality, many, many, many men are going to feel very strong sexual urges. And so it's like, cool. Sexual urge gives you a double opportunity with young men. So the first thing that I'm going to tell them is you want to partner with women. That's very important, and it's a dynamic as old as time. And women are going to raise a bar that you're going to have to meet or exceed if you want sexual access to them. And it's incredible. It's going to make you a better person. And then also you have to control those impulses. And so this is the idea of being meek, if Jordan Peterson's interpretation can be believed. He says in, I think, ancient Greek or ancient Latin, that to be meek meant to be trained, strong, to wield a sword well, but to keep it sheathed. So to be so good at fighting that you know that you don't have to fight, that you can get out of most things without that. You don't have anything to prove. You're the badass of badasses. That's somebody who can control their emotions. So I would want any son of mine to develop control over their impulses, sexual aggression, all of that. Your job is to find a way not to deny it, not to try to diminish it, but to always, always, always control it. And so now it's like, okay, let that urge, that desire for sex that for me was so motivating, to make that the motivation to become a better person, to become the kind of person worthy of sexual access. I become the person I become because Lisa set a very high bar and I was extremely motivated to meet it. Largely and look, my wife is my partner, but sexual access to my wife was and has always been and continues to be this day something that I love. It's extremely motivating to me even now. That is something that I feel very consciously that I need to earn.
Marusha Dark wants to know, you often say you've given up on adults, so what do people in their 30s, 40s, 50s do if they want to try and get better?
I should probably clarify that statement. 98% of adults won't do anything, and so spending the bulk of my time on adults just was not very fruitful. And admittedly, the phrase that I said to myself at the time in a moment of just absolute despair was, I'm now giving up on adults. I'm still obsessed with the 2% of adults that actually will make change. Otherwise, I just would eject out of this and I would just focus on children's entertainment, and that would be that. I think that the 2% can really cause movements in society, and so I will keep speaking to the 2%. But it is admittedly a thing everybody should face with their eyes wide open. 100% of kids are gonna change based on the ideas that they encounter. 2% of adults will. And I really hate that that's how the human mind is architected, but that's how the human mind is architected. We all can change, but we won't all change. Every person is a result of their childhood. Every single one of us. It is wild how impactful your childhood is. I hate that. I hate that because trauma just gets baked in. You can ease the burden of trauma, but you're never going to erase it.
What's the difference in the 2% that can be modeled or aspired to?
Imagine this. We are all a roll of 100 dice, 1,000 dice, and the dice are 20-sided. So the 1,000 things or the 100 things, whatever analogy makes the most sense to you, are traits. Discipline, ability to love, ability to sit in pain, intelligence, all the traits. We all have differing amounts of them. And then the numbers 1 through 20 are the amplitude. Gets angry easily. You're a 20, so you just, boom, you get angry very fast. We're all a mix of that stuff. If you have a lot of patience, so patience, you score a 20. Whatever. You roll that dice, we all get these really weird combinations of really patient, but extremely short fuse. So they'll be patient forever, ever. And then when they hit that thing that makes them mad, like they just trigger fast. So they go from 0 to 100 fast. It takes them a lot to finally snap, but when they snap, it's like, whoa. So you'll get like all those super weird combinations. I think it largely comes down to persistence of frame of reference. Are you self-aware? That's probably a more recognizable term for that. So how self-aware are you? Can you see yourself objectively? Do you have discipline? And the sleeper one, how badly do you want things? I have high self-awareness. I have a very easy ability to change my emotional response probably the right way. The way that I explain that is, if I decide to fall in love with an art form, so take anime, I knew what anime was growing up, but I was not obsessed with it. Once I learned the power of Japanese storytelling, I decided I was going to fall in love with it because I needed that emotional energy. Long story why. Anyway, so I do that in my 40s. And now I went from absolutely despising the art form just visually of anime. Now I love it, and have a very strong emotional reaction to it. I don't think many people can do that. So if you have a high score on that, you can see yourself the way that you are, recognize what needs to be changed, have the desire to change it, the discipline to change it, and the ability to fall in love with something new. Now that's somebody that can very easily point themselves at something else. So it's going to be like a combination of those things.